G'day guys, Rukshan here. Thanks for joining me for the news vlog. Bit of a late upload, I know. Apologies, I had a long day today and this is the best time that I could do this, so I'm going to make this very quick. Now I want to talk about Russia. That's right, Russia is in the news all the time, whether it's Trump and Russia, NATO and Russia, US and Russia, Ukraine and Russia, even Tucker and Russia. It's always Russia, Russia, Russia. And this time, we have the latest intel drop from the US, which allegedly hints at Russia wanting to launch some type of nuclear weapon into space that can take out satellites at the moment, according to this intelligence report that's being shared by the Washington Post and New York Times. Now, let me read this article to you to give you a bit more of an idea of what I'm talking about if you haven't heard about this. Russia wants to deploy a nuclear weapon in space to destroy Western satellites, US fears. Russia wants to put a nuclear weapon in space to obliterate Western satellites, according to alarming new US intelligence. This intelligence dropped today, right? The frightening possibility was revealed hours after House Intelligence Committee Chairman Mike Turner publicly said Congress had information on a serious national security threat, sparking intense speculation. The Kremlin has not yet launched nuclear weapons into orbit, but is interested in doing so, the ABC, New York Times, and Washington Post reported on Wednesday afternoon, citing current and former officials. Whenever I hear current and former officials, I always remember the fact that these current and former officials said Hunter Biden's laptop is a hoax, right? I think it was 50 former intelligence officials that signed this letter or put out this statement saying it's all a hoax. And we know what that turned out to be. Anyway, let me keep reading. The unprecedented deployment of nuclear weapons into space would be geared towards striking enemy satellites rather than for the purpose of dropping A-bombs on Earth, the report said. That's a relief to know. Attacks on satellites could threaten communications as well as important scientific and military tools. Whether Russia has developed a space-based nuclear capability or if it's merely interested in doing so is unclear. I just wanted to skip some of this and read this part. The unsettling intel came as ardent US advocates for Ukraine attempted to pressure House leaders to hold a vote on US 60 billion in aid to Kiev to fend off Russia's stalled two-year-old invasion. So this bill to give Ukraine funds passed the Senate in the US, and it is now in the House, and there's a lot of pressure to put it through. So some people are saying that a lot of these intelligence rumors and this Russia speculation or these Russia hoaxes that we see are to put fear into people, are to ensure that people, especially in the Republican Party, vote on this bill in a positive manner and give Ukraine this money. I mean, that's what a lot of the commentators are saying about this. And you kind of get this sense that whenever the US or Europe needs to target a boogeyman, they always find it in Russia. They always find it in Putin, whether it's the Trump-Russia collusion hoax, right? Whether it's just the way that they were crying about Tucker Carlson interviewing Russian President Vladimir Putin just recently, which amounted to almost nothing. It was just an interview. But you see, every time they need a boogeyman, it's always Russia. And look, like they said, we don't know for sure whether these weapons are developed or not. It hasn't been made very clear yet. It might be made clear in documents. They might have evidence of the fact that this program is happening and they're actually going to do this. We keep hearing all the time that Russia is actually a depleted nation that's incapable of doing such things sometimes, right? We hear that fact that some of these reports say that Russia is losing the war in Ukraine, and now we're hearing that Russia's developed these new types of weapons that can be sent into space to strike satellites. I mean, a lot of this stuff doesn't add up, but again, I'm not privy to this intelligence that they're looking at. But what we do have is this interesting news about Russia, especially comments from Putin saying that they're close to developing a cancer vaccines. That's right. I'm going to read this from Reuters quickly and then listen to some of Putin's own comments on this. Putin says Russia is close to creating cancer vaccines. President Vladimir Putin said on Wednesday that Russia scientists were close to creating vaccines for cancer that could soon be available to patients. Putin said in televised comments that we have come very close to the creation of so-called cancer vaccines and immune modularity drugs of a new generation. I hope that soon they will be effectively used as methods of individual therapy, he added, speaking at a Moscow forum on future technologies. Putin did not specify which type of cancers the proposed vaccines will target, nor how. Interesting. And I know this is something that a lot of countries around the world are developing and working on. And in this instance, Putin's come out very publicly and said that Russia is very close to getting a breakthrough on this. Let's have a listen to his comments on this.
Что мы вплотную подошли к созданию так называемых онковакцин, вакцин против рака и иммуномодулирующих препаратов нового поколения. И рассчитываю, что уже скоро они будут эффективно использоваться как методы индивидуальной терапии. Безусловно, сейчас много ярких открытий, и мы ждем таких открытий в будущем. В общей сложности только в 2023 году, что мы вплотную подошли к...
Anyway, that's some of the comments regarding this. Very interesting. I thought the timing of these two kind of pieces of news about these new discoveries and new tools and progress in Russia was interesting. I mean, are they trying to stop Putin from developing a vaccine for cancer? I mean, I've seen some of those comments floating around as well. Who knows? Maybe some people say it's already available, but the pharmaceutical companies don't want a cure for cancer. Let me know your thoughts about all of this. Now, in terms of news to do with Australia, we have Albanese joining a joint statement with the Prime Minister of Canada and the Prime Minister of New Zealand, literally condemning Israel regarding its planned ground invasion of Rafah in the southern border. Let me read a bit of this statement and I'll share some of my thoughts on this. The Prime Minister of Australia, Canada and New Zealand today issued the following statement on reports of Israel's planned military operation in Rafah. We are gravely concerned by indications that Israel is planning a ground offensive into Rafah. A military operation into Rafah would be catastrophic. About 1.5 million Palestinians are taking refuge in the area, including many of our citizens and their families. With the humanitarian situation in Gaza already dire, the impacts on Palestinian civilians from an expanded military operation would be devastating. We urge the Israeli government not to go down this path. There is simply nowhere else for civilians to go. Now, you can go read the rest of that statement if you haven't already. It's available on most news websites. They've shared this. You can also find it on the Parliament. I think Anthony Albanese, sorry, his social media accounts, he's posted this. Again, we're seeing this escalation continue in Israel. We're seeing countries like Australia, Canada, New Zealand, the US, who have openly supported at the very beginning the activities of Israel in the Gaza Strip, now try to tone it down and push back against this latest maneuver that they're planning to do in Rafah, saying that it would be catastrophic. In terms of what's already happened in that conflict, I think it still rises to the level of being a catastrophe if you look at it from a humanitarian point of view, and the fact that this battle between Hamas and the IDF and Israel, who is very intent on destroying Hamas. That is their reasoning behind doing all of this. They say there's strongholds there. I think today, just before I came in to do this thing, they had already done an operation in one of the hospitals there in the south. So it's continuing on, and I feel like Israel is really not looking to the West anymore in terms of guidance around how to do these things. And these type of statements might even just be for nothing, might be for show from these governments who have already given their consent, really, to what Israel has started to do, well, has been doing, and they're saying they're going to finish the job. So a lot of people are saying that these type of statements from the West are a little bit too late. It's purely symbolic, and it won't really mean much in the long run. Remains to be seen, but what I can guarantee you is that Israel will not care whatsoever about a proposal from the Melbourne City Council here in Victoria. Our own City Council, Sally Capps Group, Melbourne City Council, is putting forward a ceasefire motion. Now, we've talked about this before with other councils, but the City of Melbourne is putting forward a ceasefire motion. 7 points that they want to articulate around the conditions for Israel to implement a ceasefire. Again, is this what our local council needs to be doing? I'm going to be reading a little bit of this article. Melbourne City Council prepares to vote on a motion for peace in the Middle East, focusing on a permanent ceasefire, humanitarian aid, and respect for international law amidst the ongoing Israel-Hamas conflict. In the heart of Melbourne, a debate is brewing. The City Council prepares to vote on a motion urging a ceasefire in the Israel-Hamas conflict. A proposal by independent councillor Jamal Hakim scheduled for the next council meeting. This motion follows similar calls by Sydney and Hobart councils, but with a distinct difference. Melbourne's motion does not include a request to fly the Palestinian flag at council chambers. Look, Melbourne City, right, for all intents and purposes, and I say this as a Melbourneian, parts of Melbourne City are like almost like a dump in some respects. It's really degraded. Services are really crap. You have this rampant crime. I know that's a state issue and a policing issue, but this is in the city of Melbourne. You have graffiti everywhere. You have just overflowing bins. You have people on drugs like zombies walking around. You have people stabbing people in the city. There's businesses closing everywhere. I mean, the city is almost derelict in many respects. I know there's a lot of things going on and there's a lot of things happening at the same time, and it looks very busy, but there's lots of issues in the city of Melbourne. It is not the same city of Melbourne pre-COVID. So to think that my city council in Melbourne is wasting their time really on these foreign issues, which is not in even the realm of what councils should be doing, demanding peace in the Middle East. That's for our our federal government to do. It's not even for our state government to do. And definitely it is not for our local government, who are paid by ratepayers to collect rubbish, beautify the cities that they look after, or the municipalities they look after. That is their only required role. And half the time that crap doesn't even happen properly in the city of Melbourne. So it's crazy to see them, again, wasting time on voting on these type of motions. And a lot of people are saying this motion will actually pass the council as well. And there's a lot of support for this motion from the council because, Melbourne is a very woke type city and they're happy to waste their time on things like this when they could be making real change and difference in this city and how these services around my city here in Melbourne are run. Let me know your thoughts. Do you think councils, local city councils or local suburban councils, should be trying to bring peace in the Middle East? Even though it may seem like a noble act, it seems quite ridiculous when you think about it. And talking about ridiculous, Taylor Swift's in Melbourne. I keep talking about Taylor Swift. But Visit Victoria, one of these kind of government bodies that promotes Victoria, will be lighting up Flinders Street Station. That's right, for Tay Tay. I don't know, she's having a concert here on Saturday. She said she's having 3 shows in Melbourne. Apparently, it's going to bring in a lot of tourist eyes to the city. A lot of people flying in from other states and maybe different countries as well to see Taylor Swift in concert. And they're saying this is an excellent opportunity to promote Victoria. So therefore, they have organized a light installation that projects onto Flinders Street Station. Do you think this is a good use of, again, public money? Do you think that a concert being held by a world famous superstar who would be doing this concert regardless, and fans who are crazy to, like crazy about buying tickets to see her, would come regardless? Do you think that this is the type of tourism promotion that we need in our city, right? Does this actually benefit Victoria? Is there a case for this? I'm a bit circumspect on all of this. I don't think there is. I see these light displays on buildings, particularly when it's some type of virtue signaling, and I think it's just a waste again of resources, money, and time, because it just does cost money to do these type of things. But if you're going to put one for Taylor Swift, where was the one on Australia Day, right? Where was the one for those occasions? Why not light the Flinders Street Station with the Australian flag on that day? Of course, that's very controversial, so that won't happen in Victoria. Or did it happen? I don't know. Let me know. Let me know your thoughts on this. But yeah, I thought it was quite ridiculous. Next up, Victoria Police are all getting tasers. That's right. All members of the Victoria Police will now be carrying tasers in Victoria. It shows you what Victoria has become. I don't think. I think only some police members had tasers, but now all of them will have tasers. Let's have a listen in.
All police officers will soon be armed with tasers as part of a crackdown on Victoria's crime rate. The new tasers are linked to body-worn cameras which record as soon as the weapon is drawn.
Victoria Police has had tasers in our specialist areas, but now it's the first time you'll be seeing them with general duties police.
Tasers will be rolled out to more than 10,000 frontline police and PSOs from April.
Now, the only thing with this is, it's probably better than the police using a gun on an individual. Of course, the tasers can still do a lot of damage. Victoria Police have a notorious record of being very trigger happy in terms of using these kind of non-lethal weapons. We saw that during the protests, how they deployed them against members of the public who were just generally just peacefully assembled against the craziness that we saw during those years. Can you imagine during that time if they had tasers? They would definitely 100% I guarantee you they would have tasered grandmothers, right? This is the type of outfit that we have, the culture in Victoria Police that we've seen over the last couple of years. So, I mean, they say that this taser is actually linked to a body-worn camera that activates straight away. How long will it be before the first case where we have someone's tasered and the body-worn camera is not activated straight away? I mean, this is all, I can just see it happening. So let me know, do you think it's a good idea that Victoria Police, all of them, will be now carrying around tasers to take out the criminals, right? They're going to take out the criminals with the tasers. Let's see what happens. On a good news story, guys, Anthony Albanese, our Prime Minister, that's right, finally, I've seen this joke thrown around today, but finally he's got a yes vote. Even if it's just from one individual, he's received a yes. This is probably the most success that he's had since he's become the Prime Minister, and it's a success that necessarily doesn't benefit the rest of the country, but it does benefit Anthony Albanese. And it happened on Valentine's Day. He went to a restaurant with his girlfriend, and he proposed to her. It's all very sweet and cute, and you know, it's like our own little royal wedding is going to be happening in Australia potentially. The first PM that might be married during their time in Parliament. Let's have a little bit of a listen into the love story of Albo and his Mrs. Jodie.
Jodie and I are excited and we're thrilled. It is such a joy to be able to share this news with people, and it's wonderful that I've found a partner who I want to spend the rest of my life with, and last night was a very a great occasion here.
All right, look, I mean, I'm happy for the guy. All right, I'm happy for the guy. It's a personal thing. It's a family thing. Everyone deserves to be happy and find love and all these kind of things, especially on Valentine's Day. You know, you could probably make this into a TV series maybe. But there are cynical people out there saying that this is all planned in terms of a distraction, a PR stunt by Albanese because he's doing so poorly within general public. And this little love fest, you know, Married at First Sight, the Lodge edition. Well, this is not Married at First Sight, but you know what I mean. At the Lodge, love story at the Lodge, this, you know, this whole intrigue around Anthony Albanese's love life might help him persuade people to find him likable again after the last couple of years of his so-called prime ministership. Let me know. I mean, some people have asked me if I would take wedding photos at Anthony Albanese's wedding. I would put my hand up potentially to take photos at Albo's wedding, but I don't think he would hire me. I just think that's the case. Speaking of Anthony Albanese, there is a push within Parliament now to have politicians randomly drug and alcohol tested. What do you guys think of that suggestion? Should our politicians be randomly alcohol and drug tested? I'll just read this a quick little snippet from an article from the Canberra Times. Act responsibly. PM rejects random poly alcohol and drug testing. Anthony Albanese has rejected a suggestion made in light of Barnaby Joyce's alcohol-affected late-night mishap in Canberra to introduce random alcohol and drug testing for MPs, senators and staff in federal Parliament. So yeah, this would be like a random, you know, someone comes into the Parliament, picks out a bunch of politicians and staff members and whatever, cabinet ministers, whoever, and says, yep, you guys got to do a random alcohol test now, and we're going to see if you're drunk or drug affected as you're working. It's interesting in terms of a proposal. I know there's some industries and some workplaces that do this type of activity. Should it be introduced into Parliament House? Again, I'm a bit torn on this type of thing being widely introduced into places. There is a bit of a drinking culture in Australia, and necessarily it's not wrong to drink and, you know, enjoy yourselves when you go out, and politicians themselves should be allowed to have a drink occasionally or whenever they want, really, in moderation, and enjoy their lives. It's not illegal to do this type of thing. The problem is, of course, if you come to work drunk and it affects your performance and you are constantly drunk or on drugs. But I think that becomes evident, right? I don't think necessarily we have politicians of that caliber in our parliament at the moment. I could be wrong. Let me know. I know there are a few repeat offenders, one or two individuals, and potentially Barnaby Joyce is being labelled as one such person, especially after the incident last couple of days. But I don't see it as necessarily being a widespread problem. When I spend a lot of time watching Parliament and listening to these politicians, and they don't necessarily come across as drunk or drug affected, they definitely sound stupid most of the time, and they sound ridiculous and moronic. But I don't think it's a drug. I think it's just their ideological, intellectual laziness that comes through that way. You'd want to hope that maybe it is drugs or alcohol affecting them, because some of the things they say, you're like, oh, that's just ridiculous. How can an individual say that? But yeah, maybe they should be tested. And second thoughts, as I'm talking my way through this, maybe they should be drug and alcohol tested. Anyway, guys, that's it for my episode today. Apologies for it being so late. As always, I'll always attempt to do an episode every day, no matter the time that it is. So I hope you're enjoying this. You can follow me on YouTube at The Real Rukshan. Hit that subscribe button or hit the notification bell to get quick updates. As well as you can find me on X, Instagram, Facebook, Rumble, and Odyssey at The Real Rukshan. All right, guys. See you tomorrow.